All right, yeah. So tell us about Mombucha. How did you get into the business?
Okay, my name's Rich Awn, and I'm the founder and brewer of Mombucha, which is a super premium kombucha product made here in Brooklyn. And my history with kombucha is that my mom used to brew it, hence the name of the company.
Okay.
And yeah, she used to make it for us when we were in, I guess, like in my late teens. She started getting into it, and she's a nurse and like a healer and kind of a hippie, and she, one of her friends who was also a nurse, turned her on to kombucha. Her daughter, this woman Ruth Patras, who has her own kombucha company in New Jersey called Sierra, which is, that's just like the magic of this stuff. It's like once you get into it, it's like you make your life all about it, I guess, if you're really, really into it. So Ruth gave my mom a culture, a mother culture, a SCOBY. A SCOBY means symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. You may hear that term used for what the thing is that you use to make kombucha. Gave my mom one of these things. Looks kind of like a little chicken cutlet or something like that, and illustrated instructions. And she started brewing it right away, and we hated it, hated it. And she started getting better at brewing it, and we started liking it more. And then probably 10 years went by, and I was like, I haven't gotten sick in 10 years. And I kind of attributed it to my daily consumption of kombucha that she was forcing on us.
Can you explain what kombucha is exactly? Because it
Sure.
tastes a little vinegary. There's a little bit of alcohol. It's
Yep.
sort of carbonated,
It's all those
and
things.
and
Yep.
it's most people I think have only heard about it in the last couple of years. But it sounds like
hmm
you've been familiar with it for a while.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's an ancient way of preserving tea, and I think that's the tradition of the beverage. Its origins are unknown. The Chinese have a written record of it, like really early on, but the Chinese culture was one of the first cultures to have writing, so could have predated that.
Is it a Chinese recipe?
Another term or acronym or like sort of saying for kombucha is that it's called the Manchurian mushroom, um,
Okay.
wherever that origin came from. Still, and in the 70s, kombucha started to become kind of like a folk beverage and a folk medicine
In the
um,
United States.
in the United States. So people were trading kombucha cultures in in that sort of hippie world.
So you mentioned like a Scooby. Is that you've got a jar of
Scoby,
some
yeah,
Scoby,
yeah,
Scoobies, Scooby?
yeah.
That's what you have
There's
in the
so
jar over
many
there?
jars of those. Yeah, there's
Okay.
so you
And it
can,
does look like a chicken cutlet.
yeah, yeah. Part of the process is like preserving these colonies. So there's ways to do it, and you can kind of like keep them all in a jar and use them again, and you can use them like multiple times. It's
Oh,
just really magic stuff. Um, but what it is, the science behind it, why it's healthy, is mainly that it contains a bunch of organic acids, primarily acetic acid, which is basically vinegar. And one of the bacteria in that culture mat is the same thing that makes vinegar. It's an acidibacter, or bacteria that thrives and creates acetic acid, but all different types of acids too: oxalic acid, folic acid, and gluconic acid, which is like a big deal with cancer research, and
oh.
primarily why they think this combination of acids is actually really good for you. So those bacteria and yeast are alive, and they are continuing to survive in the beverage, and they survive in you, and you have what kombucha is already in your gut. What kombucha is doing is giving you more of what you already have, and kind of giving your system a little bit more shot at fending off, microbes
So
that
this
could
is like a
harm you.
probiotic.
It's a probiotic. It is
Okay.
absolutely a probiotic. It is probiotic rich, a probiotic rich beverage. It is not. We do not enrich our beverage with probiotics as
It
some
just is.
probiotic products on the market. It is, by virtue of it, favoring life because it's living probiotic.
So now, what makes this a premium product that's better than other kombuchas out there?
Sure. So what makes Mombucha a super premium product is the way that it's brewed. So each batch is about 2 liters at a time, We use glass vessels that have a really wide surface area and a really shallow depth. And what that allows us to do is to turn over a big batch of kombucha in a really short amount of time from a really small space. So
How long
that was
does it
the
take?
challenge. So in 7 days, I can come up with about 25 gallons of concentrate,
Okay.
which the concentrate can then be formulated in a bunch of different ways. You can part it out with water, you can add juice, you can add carbonated water. There's a lot of things you can do with a kombucha concentrate, but what that concentrate is what my mom was serving us as kids. You know, we would just get the full dose every day.
Is that what you sell then?
But what I do is I sell, I mean, my base product, I guess, is kombucha concentrate. That's kind of what all the you know, how we evaluate what it is that we're selling after it goes into the bottle. But, you know, what it ends up being is a product that is formulated to be, I would say, like, probably has a better flavor, a richer flavor, more complex flavor than other mass-produced kombuchas, and also that everything about it is made by hand. Not one step is automated. It's 100% craft. So, you know, you're getting that, and you're also getting, you know, the benefit of a product that sustains a larger kind of food incubation program. So the wholesale of Mombucha goes to cover some overhead costs that we have out of our production facility, which is also used as a shared kitchen.
So you do that here at Magick City?
Yep.
So do you sell just the one flavor, that's the concentrate, or do you dilute it
Nope.
with juices and
No,
carbonated
basically,
water?
like, there are 3 versions. There's 3 flavors in the as concentrates. It's ginger mint, blood orange, and gold turmeric. And those don't have anything added other than the raw ingredients that go into the tea that you make to then ferment. From those 3, we then create kombucha tonics, which is a line of kombucha where we add cold press organic juice to it after it's been fermented, before it goes into the bottle. Once it goes into the bottle, another transformation happens, a secondary fermentation, and that then carbonates it. That then will help to preserve the fruit juice that goes in there. You end up with just this insanely delicious thing that's really healthy. So that's kind of the obsession that I have, is to make a really, really yummy kombucha, and also have a business that thrives more than I'm thinking that it's something that could be scaled up and expanded so much.
Speaking of that, can you give us any kind of numbers? I don't want to pry, but can you tell us something about how widely distributed you are?
Yeah, so I mean, my biggest customer is Facebook Incorporated, and then Kickstarter after that, and a chain of cafes in Bushwick, a couple of stores out on Long Island. You know, so basically what I'm doing is just maxing out my space 100%. And every 7 days we have a cycle that yields about 25 gallons of kombucha that can then be parted. So that basically doubles that yield. So essentially I have 50 gallons of saleable product every week.
And now you don't want to go to a co-packer, right? Because then you lose that handmade quality.
Well, you can. So, but I would have to be able to produce 500 gallons of concentrate just to engage with a co-packer, because their minimums are 1,000 gallons of product in a tank, which then gets shot through a bottling line. And you know, it certainly can be co-packed, and it certainly can, the quality can be controlled. Just not out of here. I would need a new facility, but that's
Right.
next.
How did you start the business? Did you just bootstrapped it, paid for it yourself, or do you have investors
100%.
now?
No investors. Sole proprietor, personally financed, and it's doing what it did the whole time. So after I went to college and I was like trying to ship it up to UMass with me and spilling it in the car and making a huge mess, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna brew myself, and I kind of got the courage to handle this like slimy thing and be worried, am I going to get hurt by doing this? I think a lot of people like worry they're going to get sick by making their own kombucha, and CDC has a couple deaths by kombucha, which have to do with metabolic acidosis, which is a really scary thing if, you over-acidify your brain, essentially, and then you start feeling really bad and could die. But the other complications leading to their deaths, I think, probably, the kombucha acids could have accelerated that. Who knows? Anyway, nothing's going to happen to you by brewing kombucha. Let's just blanket statement that. And a microbiologist told me, who helped consult on this place, a good friend of mine, Joseph O'Sullivan, who's a distiller out in Oregon, came here when I first discovered the space, or it was brought to me by that guy Jeremy, who was just in here, who's my college roommate. He and I were working in real estate together, and he said, "Hey, I think I might have a good space for your kombucha brew thing, man." And I was like, "Cool, let's check it out." And this was the space, and I brought Joseph here, and I said, "Joseph, what am I doing?" And he's like, whatever you're doing will not harm anyone." And I kind of just always just focused on that and just kept doing good work. And so the business started in 2013 when we identified this space. And previously to that, in addition to working in real estate, I was working on a side project which would involve a shared kitchen and supermarket. And that was called Market Share. And that never took off, but the research that I did on that, I toured the country visiting shared kitchens, talking to the people who use these things, figuring out how they worked, what you need, how it's organized, and applied all of that information to what I do here at Magick City and what I do just a little bit outside of what Mombucha's operations are. And so putting all that together in 2013, picked up a bunch of equipment from a dumpling factory that was going out of business, and got a bunch of good deals on stuff, won on a lot of our purchases in the beginning, kept our costs low, as low as possible. And then it was just years of being whammed by regulatory expenses, or rather, just setting up the business and overhead and finding efficiencies in what we're doing. And I say we because when I opened the doors to other people for using the kitchen in addition to me brewing, we all became a collective. It all became us trying to make this place work for each one of our individual businesses. So that's the we part of it, though. Mombucha is pretty much just me and my apprentice and a couple of other people who are really interested in this, who want to learn. You can single-hand this, that's what these shared kitchens are all about, this medium level between you and co-packing, or this medium level to you and owning a factory. You can do and bang your head through a million walls in a controlled environment and spend $350 a month, as opposed to dropping $350 million on facility and branding and the risk involved in that.
So I wanted to ask you about branding and advertising, but also you're talking about the us with the community of people you're working with, but there was also the they. We were talking before this interview about state inspections and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe let's start with that.
Sure.
What sort of, you're running a kitchen here, as well as creating, you're running the kitchen here at Magick City that's become this community kitchen, and you're making your own product, Mombucha,
Right.
which has a small amount of alcohol and there's some risk, so it needs to be regulated.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about how the state
Sure.
works with you?
Right. So Mombucha is subject to regulation, and all food products made in the state of New York and in the country are subject to regulations on a city level, on a state level, and on a federal level, depending on how big your company gets. For our purposes, specific to Mombucha, it is the state Department of Agriculture and Markets. They're the ones who I first encountered, and they're the ones that if you put a label on your product, you're then controlled by them, or in some way you're inspected by them, you are verified essentially by them, and they have all these requirements that you must fulfill, and you need to buy a license from them to produce, and then from then on, they then have the opportunity to give you parking tickets, essentially, is what it is. They come in, they see your mop bucket is too close to your sink, or they see this, or whatever. And you get through it, and you pay their stupid fines, or you contest them, and you go to some stupid adjunct court, and, you know, and I think a lot of people like who are starting out are worried about these things, and you know what? You deal with them. That's it. And it's not an everyday thing. You think about them. You are smart to design your production and your business to preemptively pass inspection. So, you know, having known what a kitchen should be designed like and what my desires for a workspace should be, that's how we put this place together. But it was basically focused on kombucha production. You know, I had just the basic equipment that I had you know, planned out for making you know, fair amount of product, and enough that would sustain my business and sustain myself, and that's kind of like as far down the road as I saw it, and you know, we're there, so it's a good feeling.
So, how do you market it? Because you've gotten some pretty prestigious clients. You mentioned in a while.
So I market Mombucha a number of ways. You know, the clients I have for sure have opened up a bunch of doors, and they create a cachet for when I get into a dialogue with somebody. But people find me. I mean, kombucha is a really unique product in that people seek it out voraciously if they find that it's helping them in their lives, if they find that it will elevate the you know, the perception of their own event. If they want to do a non-alcoholic kombucha bar, you want to be like you want to be like now, then you have a non-alcoholic bar for your bar at your event, you know, and
right.
We do that, and you know, but all this stuff has evolved. Like, I didn't really whiz bang come up with like, okay, I'm going to be doing elixir bars, and I'm going to be, you know, serving kombucha on tap and leasing kegerators and providing infrastructure and logistics around this product. The growth of this company is like this. It's like this all the time from the beginning. I hear that a lot from fellow food makers at a medium level or small level who've been in it for years and decades, and they're in it. They're just into it, you know, and that I think speaks a lot to the question of why. And you know, it's because you can't work for anybody else. You can't even stomach the idea of it. If it happened, it would be a disaster. And you know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, the longer you stick with this thing, that's like the further away from the, you know, the drudgery of a job that you were trying to run from gets. You know, you clear that distance, and at some point you're in the middle of the desert. You've passed the interstellar barrier, and you're in now interstellar space, and you're just floating. You have your own thrusters, and you can get around as much as you want. But that's the thing. It's like you can be as successful as you want. That's it.
So what are your plans for the future then? How successful do you want it to be? Some people don't want their business too big because then it owns them, even though they're the boss. The business still owns them.
Yeah.
You have a quality of life thing here that you want to
have this vision of me as like a factory dad. You ever see Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
Yes.
Like, you know, what's his name? Veruca Salt's father.
Right.
Salt. I want to be like him. I want to have like a huge factory, maybe not with like people shelling nuts, wearing beautiful like pink outfits, but
just handling scobies.
I kind of want to like have a production floor and look over it, and with an incredible swelling sense of awe, and have the, you know, I don't know, I want to have I want to discover a new way to do that, and I want to involve a, you know, profit share with my employees. You know, I want to create a decentralized network of community art space, shared kitchen production facilities. So I have a lot of aspirations, and you know, but specifically for Mombucha, I want to just try to make as much as I can. You know, make as much of that product as I can, and keep it as yummy as I can, and keep getting creative with it, and keep, you know, I think the other thing is that there's an old saying about kombucha. There's so many like sayings about kombucha. There's a lot of folklore with it, and one of them is, if you don't give away as much kombucha as you make, you will have money troubles your whole life. And I kind of stick to that a little bit. I don't know if I like necessarily give as much away as I make, but I certainly give away plenty of kombucha, and don't even think about it. It is kind of this like weird cosmic paying it forward kind of type of thing.
Are you developing more flavors as part of this growth plan?
All the time. So we just developed a new flavor called Mountain Woo, and that's a collaboration with Arnold Wu, who's a cold pressed juice master working out of a loft, which should be protected by the loft law. He's getting some pressure to be moved out of his place, and this is like a common story here in Brooklyn. So a portion of the proceeds go to benefit his tenant organization to fight for his right to live and work out of his space. But it's also to sort of draw awareness to what this problem is that a lot of people are having, including myself, that we could be priced out of our dreams, and it's a real thing. And it kind of puts this sort of fear in us as we produce and as we try to develop our business, that it could just all be taken away because we just can't afford the overhead, and specific to rent and specific to real estate issues.
And you're a real estate person, right? Your background.
I mean, that's what I did for a good 5 years, like before I went 100% to kombucha brewing, which was a hobby even during that whole thing. And Mombucha was an art project starting in 2009, and I dabbled in this as a brand for a long ass time. But then, so when the rubber hit the road, all of these concerns start happening, and the best thing is to sort of try to avoid future suffering, and always have a backup plan. And if I have to move out of here, where would I go? And I always think about that. It's not like I'm like looking at leases or spaces so much as I am like kind of putting my attention into other places, other. It's like Puff the Magic Dragon. I gotta go visit another town that needs me.
Right. Would you say, what would you say are like the biggest mistakes you made in starting a business that someone might be able to learn from your mistakes and not repeat them?
Mm-hmm. So some advice that I would give a startup to avoid future suffering, which I think is important, is I would say, just first of all, you gotta just do it. I mean, you got an idea, you've made it a couple times, start doing it, and start doing it in a place that you can be like see its growth and the realities of it. So execute, manifest, and I guess also be prepared to not have a life. This is something that I heard a couple of bakers down the street from Ovenly, good friends of mine, local business. They spoke about how they just wanted to let everybody know just to forget having a life, and it's true to an extent. I think there are many years that I just like wouldn't stop working, but you find time for self-care, and you should, and rest. So those are two other important things that you should do.
Drink lots of kombucha.
Drink tons of kombucha. Yes. Do your thing that's healthy for you, and I think try not to let the business consume you to the point where you're like crying over this thing. That can be traumatic. From there, you really need to ask really like the hard questions about if it's a product, if it's a brick and mortar, whatever the manifestation of your creation is, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I'm the worst at that. I'm the worst, and you can find people to help you. You don't have to, and that's the thing, is like you don't have to burden one person with all of your problem. You can split it out a little bit. Just give one person, I need just one thing, and then this person, I just need this one thing. And don't poison the well either. You don't want to go back to the same person for the same thing over and over, especially if it's money. And you don't need the best, the biggest and the best equipment right away. You can get by with just like a lot of hand tools and like a lot of just like salt, like your own salt of like sweat and just thinking about it and just like thinking about how you can do it.
Are there people in particular who helped you that really made a difference in your life that you either want to thank, or that maybe the audience could say, hey, I want to go contact that person?
Yeah, it's so vast. I think it's just like every single person I've ever talked to reveals something new about what it I'm trying to do. So, specifically like my mom, of course, she brought this stuff into my life. I'm most grateful for her and her support, and she's been really supportive the whole time. She's really happy when there's some successes or, in like some magazine or some video. So that's fun. But like everybody who's ever worked at a Magick City, everybody who's ever drank Mombucha, everybody who's ever given me any feedback, positive or negative or neutral, has helped me. And for them, I'm grateful. And that's pretty much everybody I've ever come in contact with. So thanks, guys.
Thanks again for hosting us here.
All right, Mombucha.com. You can find Mombucha online at Mombucha.com. And I'm available in all the little Skips cafes in Bushwick. And if you're ever at Facebook, it's on tap. Kickstarter as well. And Celestine Restaurant, Matataco out of Matatuck on the North Fork, and places popping up all the time. So what's in this jar is a bunch of mother cultures or scobies. These are symbiotic colonies of bacteria and yeast. And the process that you use, this type of fermentation is called backslotting. And you add a little bit of this squiddy little slimy guy into a new batch of really super sugary tea. And I think another thing I should have said before about what differentiates Mombucha from other kombuchas is that we don't only just use sugar, we use maple syrup, which is a local sugar product. Cultures will eat up maple just as much as they eat up sugar. So if that's important to you, we do that. Maple syrup is also like 10 million times more expensive than sugar. So yeah, you're getting some really primo stuff at market rates. Fortunately, we have to compete with mass-produced store-bought kombucha price-wise, but we figured out our tweaks to cover everything so you guys can have the best and the yummiest kombucha possible. Cheers. Cheers to you guys. This one's for you.